Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we're going to be doing a 2-for-1. I know, a double doozy. We're going to be having a look at the Ogryn Bodyguard, but we're also going to be exploring a beloved guard tactic that's making a bit of a comeback with the new codex. That's right, hold on to your butts. The DreadNork is back. Woo! Yeah, baby! And if you're a new guard player who has no idea what the DreadNork is, well, you'll just have to watch and find out, won't you? I know, I could tell you right now, I could do, but I'm going to blue ball you a bit. And so without further ado, let's dive right into this thing. First things first, let's have a cheeky gander at the Ogryn Bodyguard, understand this unit, and then we can start exploring what the hell a DreadNork is. As is tradition, we'll start off with that stat line. So the Ogryn Bodyguard has a movement of 6, pretty normal for an infantry-based unit in the Guard. It's T6, which is pretty tough. It starts off with just a 5+ save, which might seem kind of crappy, but don't worry, we'll be fixing that later on with the war gear. And it has a whopping 6 wounds. Outside of like tank commanders, I think this is the most wound dense character that you can get in the Guard. Leadership 7+ with objective control of 1. Essentially, it's an Ogryn which has got double the wounds. Quick side note here. I mentioned that the Ogryn Bodyguard is a character. If you look down at its keywords, you will see it doesn't actually have the character keyword. This was added in with the Guard 10th edition Codex FAQ. So I just thought I'd mention that because I know a few people have missed it. Going back to the main video, what separates the Ogryn Bodyguard from, let's say, like regular Ogryns is not only the number of wounds, but also the fact that it essentially is one model unit. It's not 3 to 6, and it gets to pick and choose from all of the equipment of both Ogryns and Bullgryns. It's got the pick of the litter. So you'll see as standard it comes equipped with a Ripper gun, a close combat weapon, and a huge knife. But when we look at the war gear options, we can actually replace our Ripper gun with a Grenadier Gauntlet, which you're never, ever, ever, ever going to do because the Grenadier Gauntlet is one of the worst weapons in the entire game, let alone the Codex. If I ever see anyone with a Grenadier Gauntlet Ogryn Bodyguard, or Bullgryn for that matter, I will be, you know what? I will be mad and disappointed. Reluctantly being sensible again for a moment, you can replace the Ripper gun with a Bullgryn Maul instead. That is actually a very good option, as we'll see later on. And you can replace the Ooge Knife with one of the following: Brute Shield or Slab Shield. The Ooge Knife is actually a unique bit of war gear to the Ogryn Bodyguard. I think Nork has one as well. It's something that regular Ogryn don't get. If they did, my god, they'd be amazing. You get 6 attacks, which is actually more than the Bullgryn Maul, at a better strength, same AP, same damage. It is truly, truly a crying shame that GW won't let you take Ooge Knife and Brute Shield, because that would be the perfect loadout. As it is, what you're probably going to end up doing, what I would recommend you do definitely for the DreadNork, is you do go for the Bullgryn Maul, because that does make him pretty decent at melee. And you also go for the Brute Shield, because that gives you a 4+ invulnerable save. 7 wounds is very tempting. But remember, you only have a 5+ base save. So you can have all the wounds you want. But but you'll die very quickly if you've only got a 5+ save. Another quick side note here. You'll see that the Ripper gun for the Ogryn Bodyguard has now been updated to be in line with the Ripper gun of the regular Ogryn squads. In the index, this was like weirdly different. I think it was like sustained hits 1 instead of rapid fire 3. Now, all Ripper guns across the board are rapid fire 3, which is good. Best to keep things consistent. The Ogryn Bodyguard does have a couple of cool abilities as well. We've got a Feel No Pain 6+, which is fine. And we've got Ogryn Bodyguard, which means that while one or more officer models are in the same unit as his model, those officer models have the Feel No Pain 4+ ability. So sadly, the Ogryn Bodyguard doesn't get the 4+ Feel No Pain because He's not an officer. I would love for him to be an officer, but he's not an officer. So it's just, well, essentially it's the platoon commander. Platoon commander is going to have a 4+ feel no pain. On the off chance you've got like a platoon commander and Creed or Castellan in the same blob squad, because you can obviously have two things join a blob squad, then both of those officers would get the 4+ feel no pain. But I know what you're thinking. Mordian, how could you get an Ogre bodyguard to join a blob squad? And if you could, wouldn't that count as having like a platoon command squad, and then you'd have the Ogre bodyguard? That would be 2 characters, right? So how would the Castellan or Creed get in there as well? Let me introduce you to this very long bit of text here, which is Loyal Protector. Essentially, what this means is that the Ogre bodyguard is not a leader. It joins a command squad at the beginning of the declared battle formation step, and then for all intents and purposes, it is considered a standing part of that command squad. It's not a character, so if the unit was to split apart, let's say you've got an Ogre bodyguard and a command squad join a blob squad, if all the blob dies, it wouldn't mean that the command squad and the Ogre bodyguard would separate. No, essentially you're just like hacking, you are increasing the strength, the starting strength of the command squad, and then from going forward from that point on in the game, they are considered one unit, not 2 separate units, one unit. So that just about covers the Ogre bodyguard. And they do look pretty awesome. And that toughness 6 looks like it could be kind of useful in a unit, right? Well, there's a reason why you don't see many people taking Ogre bodyguards. And that is because of the bodyguard core rule. Now, this is where things are going to get confusing, because we've got the term Ogre bodyguard and then we've got the bodyguard rule, but they are actually 2 things. And despite the name of this unit, the Ogre bodyguard is not technically a bodyguard. To try and keep this simple and to avoid myself going insane from saying the word bodyguard too much, in the core rules, a bodyguard unit is the thing that a leader can join. So if you have a unit of guardsmen and you join a platoon command squad or a Castellan to that blob squad, the blob of guardsmen would be considered the bodyguard, and the command squad and the Cadian Castellan would be considered the leader. Now, when you have a bodyguard unit, not an Ogre bodyguard, when we've got, I'll do this to differentiate. When you've got a bodyguard unit, you use that unit's toughness. Despite the other toughnesses that might join that unit, you use the bodyguard unit's toughness. Now, the reason this is such a big problem for our Ogre big boys here is because they are T6, but when they join the command squad, they become part of that command squad. When that command squad then joins the blob squad is considered the bodyguard, and the command squad as a whole, including the Ogre, is considered the leaders. So despite the fact that the Ogre is T6, whilst it is part of the blob squad, whilst it's part of the platoon, it is considered their toughness, which is toughness 3. So this T6 is cool, but whenever you have an Ogre bodyguard join a command squad and then join a blob squad, it essentially becomes T3, which makes it way, way, way less useful. Also, this kind of messes with the Ogre bodyguards. Ogre bodyguard, oh my god, there's multiple layers of this. Jesus Christ, GW.
You get it. We both have layers.
The Ogre bodyguard rule gets screwed up by the bodyguard rule because you can't assign wounds to an officer model, to a leader, to a character before you assign them to the bodyguard unit. So essentially, when you've got an Ogre this is so confusing. When you've got an Ogre in a command squad that's part of a blob, this 4+ feel no pain ability only really protects you against precision. So it doesn't come up very often. Now, thankfully, that is the last time I'm going to talk about Ogre bodyguard rule, and then the bodyguard rule, because from this point on, we're going to be looking at the DreadNork, because whilst Ogre bodyguards don't do well in blobs of infantry, they do very, very well if you just don't join the command squad to something. If you just take a command squad and give it an Ogre bodyguard, you get quite a spicy combo. And the big part of this is that the command squad overall becomes toughness 6. I know what you're thinking. You're saying, but Mordian, you said the Ogre becomes T3. That only happens if you take the command squad and join it to the platoon. If you don't, if you just have your command squad with the Ogre in it, then it's not technically a leader. It's just a unit. And so this means that you then get to use, according to the core rules, when you've got mixed toughness units, you go with the toughness that is highest. In this case, T6. So as long as the Ogrin and the command squad, they come together, but then they don't join a platoon, you get a squad that is actually T6. And that's on everyone. That's on the officer. That's on the flag guy or the special weapon guys, the medics, the Vox guys, everyone. The whole unit becomes T6. I guess that makes sense. If you've got like a big blob of like 20 people, they're not all going to be able to hide behind the Ogre and bodyguard. But if it's just like a small command squad, the majority of them probably could quite safely hang out behind his bulk whilst the bodyguard eats the lead. And it's this small yet very tough squad which we like to call the DreadNork. It's something that was coined back in 9th edition when we could do this with Nork Dead Dog. And by the way, Nork can do this. He doesn't have an invulnerable save, so he's not quite as good at doing it. But Nork can do this. And so essentially that's where the term DreadNork came from. So the big question is, if the DreadNork is back, what command squads, now that we've got multiple options for command squads, we used to just have platoon command squads, now we've got Cadian, Krieg, and we've got Katachan command squads. So which options are best? Well, it comes down to what weapons you want to give your command squad, what role you see it fulfilling. If you want to go down a more melee route, I would recommend the Cadian command squad. The reason for this is that in a Cadian command squad, the officer can take a power fist, but also you can have one of the basic dudas also get a power fist as well, one of the Cadian veteran guardsmen. Now what's kind of cool is that because of the way that 10th edition datasheets work, the power fist on the commander is exactly the same as the power fist on the Cadian veteran. So you would actually get 6 attacks with power fists from this squad. Plus, you've then got the Ogre and bodyguard with his Bulgrin Maul, and you're getting a unit which is going to be putting out 11 pretty decent melee attacks. They're going to be all damage 2, all decent strength, and with at least some AP. Now, the drawback here is, of course, that they do only hit on 4s with those power fists, and you can't tell them to fix bayonets because the command squad doesn't natively have the regiment keyword. I know it should do, but it doesn't. But you're really looking at this unit as a brick wall. You're looking at it as just a cheap pseudo Bulgrin squad. Because this comes in at time of recording, and this may change, but at time of recording it comes in at about 105 points. And everyone's got T6. So if someone runs into this unit, you can just take a few wounds on the basic guardsman first. Because you're going to have 4 guardsmen, then the platoon commander, then the bodyguard. Or you can take them on the bodyguard first. It just depends on what kind of attacks are coming in and whether you think you need an invulnerable save or not to weather them. And don't forget, you do have the Medipack. The Medipack does allow you to regrow people in the command squad. You can't regrow the platoon commander and you can't regrow the Ogre and bodyguard. That's why they gave him the character keyword. Before that FAQ, bodyguard could go down and you could get him back up. But they caught that one, unfortunately. So if you're looking for a Deadard melee option, then this is a good route. If you're looking for something with a bit more firepower, you want to check out the Katachan command squad. Now, the Katachan command squad could only have the commander with a power fist, but all 4 guardsmen can take special weapons. You can take a plasma gun, a melter gun, a heavy flamer, and a grenade launcher. You might want to leave one of those behind so you can still take the Medipack, but I guess it depends on how much firepower you want. If you were going to go down this route, what I would do is I would keep the Ogre and bodyguard with his Ripper gun, and I would just swap the Ooge knife out for the Brute Shield, because you can do that. You can have Ripper gun and shield. The Ripper Gun can still be used in melee. It's not as good as a ball or a Ooge knife, but it's still passable. And it feeds into what this squad is trying to do, which is be dead hard and shooty at range. So if you want dead hard and melee, you would go for the Cadians. If you want to go dead hard and shooting, you'd probably go for the Catachans, which does seem like it is the wrong way round, but it is what it is. Now, I know what some of you guys are going to be thinking, but what about the Krieg Command Squad? The Krieg Command Squad is still a totally valid option for this. It's just more of a jack of all trades, master of none. You see, with the Krieg Command Squad, you can have one guy with the Power Fist, the officer with the Power Fist, but you can't have a second Power Fist. You can get a Power Sword, to be fair, on the Cadet Commissar, as it were, and you would get an extra guardsman in this unit as well. And you still do get a Plasma Pistol on the Lord Commissar, and you would still have a Plasma Pistol on the Cadet Commissar, and you would still be able to get a Plasma Gun or a Melter Gun on one of the Veteran Guardsmen. So it's definitely not a bad choice at all. It's not bad at all. And what's kind of cool is the Krieg Command Squad's Grim Determination ability works whether it's leading something or not. It just always works. So I actually think I do like the Krieg Command Squad. It's maybe not quite as much shooting as the Catachan one, and maybe not quite as much punch as the Cajun one, but it can do a reasonable job of both. So if you want something that's a little bit more flexible, but not as good at one individual job over the other, I could definitely see the Krieg Command Squad working. Oh, and it is worth doing an honorable mention for the Militarum Tempestus Command Squad. They can absolutely have an Ogren bodyguard as well. And those guardsmen would natively have a better save, and they would also have sustained hits. And like with the Catachan Command Squad, you can give people lots of special weapons. In fact, you could go for Plasma Pistol on the officer, and then you could go for Plasma Gun, maybe Melter Gun or Grenade Launcher and Hotshot Volley Gun, and then go for a Medipack. Or you could just sack off the Medipack and go Grenade Launcher, Hotshot Volley Gun, Melter Gun, Plasma Pistol, go for the shooty Ogre Bodyguard, Ripper Gun, and Brute Shield, and you would have lots and lots of firepower, all with sustained hits. The disadvantage of the Militarum Tempestus Command Squad, of course, is that it is a bit more expensive. At the time of recording, I do believe that it's 10 points more than a regular Command Squad, and you would be giving up the ability to Deep Strike, because the Ogre Bodyguard, he doesn't gain Deep Strike, and every model in a unit needs to have Deep Strike for you to be able to Deep Strike. But it's an option, and if you think that spending 10 points more for slightly better save on some of the shit munchers, and for sustained hits is worth it alone, then that's a good option. But what about Nork himself? We're doing a video about DreadNorks, and we've not even looked at the OG himself. Well, Nork is actually okay. He has essentially the same stat line as a regular bodyguard, but with just one better save. And he has a fixed loadout, so he has to have Ripper Gun and Ooge Knife. Now, he does hit better with his Ripper Gun. He has base ballistic skill 3+. Apart from that, it is the same. And he does hit better with the Ooge Knife. He is base weapon skill 2+. And apparently, Nork's knife is so Ooge that it causes devastating wounds at damage 2. Now, he doesn't have an invulnerable save. And he costs 20 points more, which for a lot of people is the killer. They're like, no, I need that invuln. And I'm not even disputing that. I think the invuln is very, very useful. But he does get a 5 at Feel No Pain. He does have a better Feel No Pain. And if you want to do more damage in melee, he does get to do the Thunderous Headbutt, which he now does in addition to his normal attacks. I think in previous editions he had to choose between this and fighting normally. So on a 2 to 5, you would do D3 mortal wounds to the enemy. And if you roll a 6, you could do D3 plus 3 mortal wounds. So I think Nork, if you wanted to go down the old school DreadNork route and go for Nork himself, I think that whilst it's a bit more expensive and arguably less good at its fundamental job, which is being tanky. Remember, that's the main reason you're taking this, so it can take damage. I think you could do it, and you wouldn't be completely handicapping yourself. And you could do it, and you would still have an effective unit, even if it's not the most effective out of all of the possible iterations. And speaking of multiple iterations, don't forget, you can take 3 to 4 of these things, because you've got 3 Ogre bodyguards, and you've got Nork. Now, if you consider Nork's option too expensive, fair enough, but you could take 3 DreadNorks, and you could go for the full tanky build, the full tanky melee build with the Cadians, and it would only cost you 315 points. That is not expensive at all. For, I mean, how many wounds is it? 6 plus 3 for the commander plus 4. 13 wounds. For a 13 wound toughness 6 unit with decent melee capabilities, with a 4+ invulnerable save, and a 6 of feel no pain on almost half of those wounds, and just toughness 6 on all of the other guys, with the ability to regrow D3 models a turn. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can actually use the officer to tank some damage. Because there's no leader bodyguard, going back to the confusing bit for a second, leader bodyguard, if you wanted to allocate wounds to the officer first, you could do. Now that would obviously be risky because the officer only has 3 wounds, but he does have a feel no pain. So you could be like, oh, I've got a couple of wounds that come through, I'll take it on the officer. Okay, he's going to have a feel no pain. If I would say feel no pain, potentially there's quite a lot of tankiness there. And if the officer dies, you don't really care, because you might miss out on an order, and you might have been using that order as some support, but you're not thinking about this unit in terms of orders. If the officer dies, sure, he can't be regrown, but you're not missing out on a huge amount. And if you need to stop an enemy unit in its tracks, maybe the officer dying so he can tank multiple wounds at his feel no pain would be worth it. So in summary, the DreadNork is back. And not only that, you can take it in multiple different iterations for multiple battlefield roles. And it can either be dead hard at combat, or now dead hard and pretty effective at shooting. Of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think that the DreadNork has a place on the battlefield, or are you going to stick with your regular Bullgryns and Ogryns, or is it a combination of all 3 together? If you enjoyed today's video, let me know by smashing that like button. If you didn't like it, you can dislike it, because apparently YouTube doesn't know the difference between likes and dislikes. It just sees interactivity. As always, if you want to see more content like this, subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.